Hello, Caribou Jackson.
Thank you.
Welcome to our home, my dear. It's a pleasure to have you. Please come in.
Jacqueline Kakembo is a philanthropist, African art collector, former diplomat, and lifelong bridge builder between Africa and its diaspora. Today, she welcomes us inside her vibrant art-filled home, where each piece tells a story of connection, culture, and memory gathered over decades across the African continent. Alongside her husband, Dr. Kakembo, a Ugandan physician that she met in post-World War II Germany, Jacqueline shares a remarkable journey that spans continents, from her days as a young nurse and activist to her current work as a humanitarian and board member of the African Art Museum of Maryland. Through her life and legacy, we explore how love, art, and purpose can transcend borders, reminding us that the ties that connect Africa and its diaspora are as enduring as they are beautiful.
Atop here we have from a very famous artist from the 50s from the Congo. Here I have a wonderful gift from a well-known Gambian artist who was a friend of ours back in the 60s when he was in America painting after he had left the Gambia, Mamadou Cissé. Here we have a wonderful piece of photography done by an African-American photographer, Dr. Denise Rice. I have been working with a group of young artisans from Niger, the Republic of Niger. Orphans trained in the craft at the National Museum of Niger. 2003, when I went to visit Niger with a group of volunteers from Operation Crossroads Africa, I had the opportunity to meet the young people working and learning the craft of leather working in Niger. I'm still to this day, 2025, working with them. Now they're men and creating very beautiful objects and other pieces. So most of the objects that you'll see here were gifts. I haven't been a collector of art. I think I've been collecting people, but not art. But what you see reflected in the home are gifts that we have received. These wooden bowls are from the Tuareg people from Niger. And this is used, of course, for storing food. While Henry and I were studying and working in Germany, I had a very, very good friend from Kinshasa. Then we have another piece here by Mamadou Cissé, also 1984, By the River. And here we have Uganda. Kako Kolo is the name of this contemporary piece. And the artist is Henry Mzibi Mujungwa. This is worn by the men and the women of the Tuareg community in Niger. Pouches for keeping, all of them open from various angles, and there are all kind of little hidden places inside. It comes apart and you can have it. If you want to hide your money or anything to hide, you just have it in there, in your pouch. And this is the leather work. All of this work is done by the women. I went to Germany right after my training as a nurse at a historical black college, Hampton University. At the time I was there in the 60s, it was still Hampton Institute. I found my way through other acquaintances to Germany and other friends and family members from Liberia. I found my way to Germany, where I continued my studies and then eventually specialized in anesthesiology and intensive care. It was during my time then in Germany that I met Dr. Kakembo. We were working at the same hospital, but we had not met until one of our colleagues from Burkina Faso invited a group of us to a New Year's party. And that was initially how we met. It was, in fact, living in Germany at the time, the majority of us from the United States, those of African descent, African ancestry, we all came together. Africans from Senegal, from the Gambia, from Guinea, from Uganda, from Kenya, Nigeria. We all came together as a group. The common bond for us all was that we were either African or descendants of Africa. And even though I was there with my family and friends who were African American, we identified ourselves as Africans, Americans proud of our African ancestry. And so we automatically were a part of the larger African community, even as African Americans, as well as friends from the Caribbean.
How big was the community?
Oh my goodness. Between Bonn, Dusseldorf, Neuss, and Cologne, just in that general vicinity, I would say at the time, we were a small community. We might have been 100 people. We might have been 100.
All of you young professionals.
Yes, yes. And because we were young professionals and could by that time, after training in German system, we all spoke fluent German. And because we were all either students or completed our programs and spoke German, we were very well received by the German community. It's interesting now, many years later, 40 years later practically, to see the difference. Because at that time, the Germans received us as equals because we were educated, because we were professionals, and because we spoke their language. They really appreciated that and respected us at that time for that. Their immigration laws were very different then than they are right now.
You like you said, you felt that you were treated equally.
We were treated very well.
In America, was that the same kind of?
No. In America, of course, we were during the civil rights struggle, racism knocking on you at every door. In Germany, we could really feel respected and we could move about freely. It may be different now because of the times, but post-war, we did feel that there were certain privileges open to us. We were really treated equally. There was not the kind of discrimination that you felt in America because of your color or because you were of African descent. The only thing that kept us apart from the Germans was the fact that we were what you call Ausländer. We were foreigners in their country. So we were treated the same way the British were treated by them, the French. We were treated the same as anyone else from any other part of the world.
That was a foreigner.
That was a foreigner. The color of the skin was not what mattered.
Wow,
or the fact that you were from Africa or of African descent.
Let's go a little back in your timeline. 1965, your experience with Operation Crossroads Africa. You said that changed the course of your life. How?
Actually, in 1965 with Operation Crossroads Africa, often I'll say that it changed the course of my life, but when I go back prior to 1965, I think I was already on that course because growing up in Boston, I lived right across from the Boston Museum of Fine Arts. And every weekend, every Sunday, I'm in the museum, drawn to Egypt and Africa, anything they had, and studying about ancient history, the ancient world, so that by the time I finished high school and knew I wanted to leave Boston, I had decided that I would go to a historical black school and not remain in Boston. There wasn't much that I could identify with in Boston. Granted, I grew up in an African American community in Roxbury. But on the whole, once I graduated from high school, I would have been either going to one of the major universities right there in Boston.
Like Tufts or Harvard or
Yes,
Boston U.
and there would not have been the diversity that I felt I belonged or should be a part of. So I went to Hampton, and in 1965, Reverend Robinson, the founder of Operation Crossroads Africa, visited our campus. He was in the process of visiting the HBCUs in an effort to recruit more African American students to participate in the program, because white students had always been going to Africa and having the opportunity, and we were always hearing the negative things about Africa. One day I'm like, if they're going to Africa and having such a grand life, it can't be that bad. Why are they trying to keep us, as people of color, children of Africa, why are they trying to keep us away? I made up my mind that I was going. So I was already on that trajectory, that I'm going to Africa. My sight was on it. I went to an African American school or historical black school thinking that I'm going to feel that kind of relationship, a strong relationship with this African American students, the students of the Caribbean, and the students of Africa. But unfortunately, even at the time I went to Hampton, there was discrimination. Our students, our African American students, were literally discriminating against the Africans. That didn't sit well with me at all. Not at all.
Let's talk a little bit about just to go back to Dr. Robinson's. You said at the time only white students were able
The majority
of the Why was it that they were the only ones able to travel to Africa?
You know, that's a good question. I think that, the white students from the various universities like Harvard, like Stanford, I mean, you name it, those students had a different view of Africa. Their parents, and let's say their parents even, although people before their parents had been traveling to Africa. They had been settling in Africa, either as diplomats or even in some cases missionaries or as educators. That was not the case with the black community, within or from the black community. It wasn't until later, during the, let's say, time of independence, that the State Department eventually started to send African Americans to Africa. But I think that white students were exposed. They heard about the program. Dr. Robinson had to make a special effort, as did we as alumni. We had to make special effort to reach out to African American students because they didn't have easy access to the information, and funding was another thing. The white students their parents could afford. Not only was the interest there, but their parents could afford to send them. Actually, when they came to Hampton, my parents couldn't afford to send me on the program, although at that time it was extremely affordable and still is today. But we find that our students mostly had to work during the summer in between semester in college, either to help with tuition or to help with books. And then also was still the stigma. My parents were like, Africa? Where did you get Africa in your mind? Why do you want to go to Africa?
That's a good point. I wanted to ask you about the attitudes of your parents had, because you say that you had an ancestral calling, but usually that is kind of egged on by people in your family, especially people that have influence to you.
Well, that's a good point, because I was actually the first one in my family to express this strong connection, or having this strong connection and the desire to go and see for myself. However, even though it was not a part of growing up from my parents directly, my parents did not restrict me in any way whatsoever. I was given the opportunity, I was able to accept the opportunity to go to Africa. My family, my parents did not deny me that opportunity. They did not initiate it, but they certainly encouraged me once I expressed the desire to go. Now, as an African-American student, I mentioned we did not have the funds, and we were encouraged by the college, which did give us some support. And also there were two of us that went the year I went in 1965. They give you ideas of how to raise the money. So we went to speak to the African-American churches. We went and talked to them about Africa because we had to do research before being accepted into the program. And I chose my topic, the West African slave trade. And so we would go to the various colleges and churches in the Black community and talk about Africa and talk about having the opportunity to go and volunteer in Africa. And at the end of our presentation, the congregation would take up a gift and give us a donation to help us with our travels. Mm. So the Black church was very supportive, and we had the opportunity to educate, really, to go and talk about Africa as well.
You were raising money, but also educating them.
That's right.
I'm quite sure there were many in the congregations that ended up traveling just because of that interaction that you had as well. Exactly. So you traveled to Sierra Leone, was your first country?
Sierra Leone was my first country.
Why Sierra Leone?
Initially, I was selected to go to Guinea. Sékou Touré was the president, and I was selected to go to a French-speaking or Francophone African country because on my application, I had expressed the desire to go to a French-speaking country. So I was assigned Guinea, but just before we were to leave America, Sékou Touré broke relationships, a diplomatic relationship with the United States. And as a result, those of us going to Guinea were assigned to other countries, and I was assigned to Sierra Leone.
Did that turn out to be the right choice for you, you think?
Yes.
Eventually?
Eventually. I think any place they would have sent me would have been the right place. Because every place I've gone since then...
You're just excited to
is
go.
It's a right place. Yeah. I haven't gone to any one wrong place yet.
Had you traveled out of the country before?
That was the first time. I was 18. I left America. That was the first time on a plane out of the country.
Was it by yourself, or you had a group of other students?
There were a group. We all assembled at Rutgers University for our orientation. We had 1 week of orientation where we were just given advice as to how we should carry ourselves. We were advised as to what clothing to bring, what medications to have with us. Once you were accepted into the program, a schedule was given for you to follow up to the orientation.
What kind of relationships did you build in Sierra Leone at the time? How long were you there? What are some of your early memories of your time there?
Well, first of all of the programs lasted 2 months, which was a good amount of time for us to get into the community and know the people and feel our way with the project. I had a very unique experience in Sierra Leone because at Hampton, I had friends from Sierra Leone. As I mentioned before, we did have a large body of African students attending from newly independent nations. And the Sierra Leoneans, when I told them that I would be traveling with Crossroads, of course, they were very excited and gave me lists of all of the relatives and friends that I should visit when I get to Sierra Leone. Well, little did I know, my father's the president, you have to go and see my father. This one is my uncle or my nephew or my cousin, he's the minister of the interior. And this one is the mayor. So there I am landing in Sierra Leone with my group. And once we are welcomed by our counterparts, who were university professor and students, I settled in with them. Did orientation at the famous Forabe College. And when we arrived in the night, there was a terrible thunderstorm because we were there during the rainy season. And that's when I found out that Sierra Leone got the name from the Portuguese to mean the roar of the lion. Leone, Sierra Leone. So there we were with the roaring in the mountains, and the college was beautiful. Now, en route, of course, we left out of New York, and then we went to the Canary Islands. At that time, in those days, that's where we were making the stops.
Oh, okay.
And then from there to Freetown. Excuse me.
Okay.
But the relationships, of course, where we lived and worked together. Our project was in a place called Bowtown, a very, at that time, middle-sized town outside of the capital. I don't remember how many hours we had to drive to reach our destination, but we were well rested and well received in Freetown at Forabe College before traveling to our project site, which was Bow.
Dr. Kakembo, what do you remember about your time in Germany, especially first meeting this beautiful lady?
Germany was a good country. It's a good country because Germany is very organized. There's order, it's very clean and everything. And the people, once they weren't discriminating, and they're very, very helpful. They helped me settle in. Because I was in England before I went to Germany. Mm-hmm. And when I went to Germany, they were asking why was I going to Germany? Why did I leave England? Well, I said, a friend had called me to go and see them. And I couldn't go back to Uganda at that time because Idi Amin was there. And the political situation was not good. I had, because I had started a PhD program. So when I went to Germany, I went to Bonn University. So a professor there, and they said I could complete it there at Bonn University. And it was more or less, I had already written the dissertation and everything, so it was more or less the interview.
What did you know about America at the time?
Actually, when I was in London, I visited America one time, I think, yes, just during a holiday vacation. And I went to New York, several cities, Los Angeles, came to Washington, D.C., and there were some Ugandans here. Once they welcomed me through a party and all that. After that, I went back to England. Yeah,
Which year was this? Which year did you come here?
This was 75.
There were already Ugandans in Washington, D.C.?
Yes.
Wow.
One of them, they had come as students. They were students. I think someone was sponsored by a bishop. It was called a Bishop Walker. I think he passed away. But Bishop, he was a Ugandan, a Black American bishop. And I think he had been to Uganda. I think that's where the connection was. He kind of sponsored the Ugandan to come and land here.
Okay, so you meet You get married, you start a home together. Let's talk about how you're able to carry your different heritages. You of Ugandan descent with an African American. How were you able to keep those two, cultural backgrounds in the same home and carry it and pass it on to your children?
Yeah, but in Uganda, when I was going to school, we had English teachers, and we even had American teachers. And then even when I was at the hospital, we had the professors, they were English. So we grew up in that system, the English system. And the background, the cultural background, we listened to jazz, we know Aretha Franklin, all this, James Brown. So I knew a little about the American culture also. So it wasn't really a shock. I didn't have to learn much about the Americans when I met her. And we talk about the same things and like the same music, type of music. So it was easy.
Was that your experience?
Well, fortunately for me, he had some exposure to America. He had a bit of knowledge about the United States. I had, on the other hand, traveled extensively in Africa and had, since my years of college, the opportunity to learn more about Africa, different countries in Africa. I knew more about West Africa than, East Africa or Uganda. But we had acquaintances, so it's not to say we didn't know anything about each other's cultures. The main thing I think that helped us, though, we shared the same family values. Our values, it was very important. The family was our focus, and being with our children and doing things together with our children. I remember when they were so young, Nasozi actually became known as my little shadow, because going into the Ugandan community or into my community, she was always with me. And we had also, in the African community and in our communities too, the children are always included in the festivities, in the celebrations. And we had a common respect for our culture. I respected his culture. He respected my culture. And together we learned to be together, and we grew. As we grew, we learned more. Let me put it that way. But you have to have that respect and appreciation of the other person's life and the other person's tradition and culture.
And when I was at school, I was chosen as an exchange student to come to America, but I didn't take it because it would have set me back a year. If I went back after the year, I would go back to the same class. So I didn't take that up. That was when I was a teenager still.
There are a few people I've had who could turn down the opportunity to travel to.
I wasn't interested in America.
Little did he know then that he would be coming to America to
live.
live.
Yes.
Yeah, even then I didn't know I was going to come to America.
We didn't know until
Saudi Arabia until things cooled down.
That's right.
Uganda or something.
That's right. When we first got married, we didn't have our eye on America, coming back to America. He's right. I forgot about that. We were thinking we would go to Saudi. Yes. He had been offered an opportunity there.
Yeah,
and I was looking forward. I was looking forward to peace and quiet and just learning Arabic. So off we we go to the African Art Museum of Maryland, located only 5 minutes from our residence here in the retirement community of Snowden Overlook.
Is this actually a retirement community?
Yes. Active adult community. Snowden Overlook in
It looks very active for sure.
Yes, we are active. We're the new generation. The 80 is the new 60.
Absolutely.
So we keep ourselves busy and active.
So have you actually retired?
No, we haven't retired. That's what keeps us still active.
You're retired?
Yes, I'm retired from practicing medicine. And
What is your day like?
the day like it's still busy. Got a lot of other things to do. Writing, reading, and managing properties overseas.
What about you? Aside from driving him around, what do you do?
Actually, that's the beauty of our successful marriage. He drives where he has to go and I drive where I have to go, doing what I have to do, my involvement in the community with volunteering, and now we're on our way to the African Art Museum of Maryland. I serve as a member of the board of directors there. The museum is closed today, but our founder and director will be there to greet us. So I spend my time volunteering with the museum. I'm also president of the African and American Women's Association. We just celebrated our 50th anniversary, which of course is all about building bridges and maintaining our relationship with our sisters on the continent of Africa and in the diaspora. So we're headed, we have the green light. We're going to be there in a couple of moments. And we chose to move here so that we could be closer to Dr. Kakembo's clinic in Baltimore. And we were living previously in Silver Spring. But like I said, we moved here to be closer to Baltimore. Columbia is a very diverse community and was actually established on that principle. So we have here apartment houses, we have communities like the one we live in villas for seniors, and then you have townhouse developments, and of course communities with single family homes. I think it's open. Yeah, go ahead, how you doing? We're now entering the African Art Museum of Maryland. And welcome, we have our special friend, Miss Doris Ligon, who is the founder and the director of the African Art Museum of Maryland. So all of my life, even as a young student and prior to marrying Dr. Kakembo, was exposure and experience on the continent of Africa. After 20 years abroad, of course, returning to Colombia, it was a great surprise and most pleasant honor for me to become a member, to be invited to become a member of the board of directors for the African Art Museum, which has been around and a part of this community since 1980. We have a piece that was gifted to the museum many years ago. And as you can see, in spite of efforts to preserve it, there has been wear and tear because of the sensitivity of the bark.
This is called a robogo, and it's from a bark tree. It's a bark cloth, and it's used as a shroud and also for burials. When people die, they bury, they don't use, they never use coffins, and it's used for other ceremonies too.
This was a gift from the Embassy of Uganda in Washington, D.C. to the African Art Museum of Maryland for hands-on. This was a piece that they wanted us to allow visitors to see and touch and feel authentic bark fabricated by the artisans. There are special people in Uganda who work the bark cloth. As you can see, it's embellished with the cowrie shell, which we have throughout Africa, and has come to represent.
Used to be a currency at some point.
It was the
currency.
currency. It was used throughout the continent. One of the most unique and favorite pieces when visitors come into the museum is this Kasi Malero mask. In the beginning, people do not even realize that it is a mask. But if you look at it very carefully, up to the top, you'll see the head of an antelope. This mask is worn by select male figures in the community, and it is danced, swirled around during the specific season of the harvest season, when the individual dancer is swirling and turning this portion of the mask rotates. This is the mask of the Chewa people of Malawi, one of the smaller African nations. This corner, of course, we have items from Ghana. We have royal stools. I think you will be able to see as we go into one of the other rooms. You'll see our royal stools over there. We have this wonderful mask from the Baga people. Doris, I believe this is Guinea. Is that correct? Or yes. Now, some of the objects primarily here are from traditional purposes and are antiques. All of the objects that you see here. However, we are very proud of an amazing contemporary piece, which is from Tanzania. Some of the pieces, many of the objects that the museum has in its possession have been given as gifts to the museum. For example, let's have a look here at this wonderful high-profile chair, cowskin, wood, brass from Ghana. And it was gifted to Ambassador Kenneth Brown, and it was donated to the African Art Museum of Maryland by Ambassador Kenneth Brown. This is one of our major pieces. I don't think if you go to the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C., you'll even see it. We have some beautiful beaded objects from South Africa. And of course, when we talk about the beading cultures in Southern Africa, and we talk about the beaded cultures in Nigeria, there's always a cross-cultural, cross-continental similarity, even with our the Indians who were originally living in and still live in North America. We have on this wall a fetish shirt, which is worn by the hunters in Mali, with, of course, all of the protection that you can see adorning their shirts. after a wonderful visit at the African Art Museum of Maryland, we met with Doris Ligon, the founder and director, and we talked about not only what we as a family can benefit from being a part of this museum, but the broader community that we can help.
We started close to the mall, the museum.
Yes.
But they moved twice, three
Yes,
times.
that's what I mentioned to him, that in the process we had been in historic Oakland Manor. We started out in school classrooms as a traveling museum. And as a result of the visits that we made into the school, the county actually added to the curriculum in the middle school and elementary school a section on Africa. They had never included Africa in the studies, but after the museum became active in the community and taking the story of Africa to the students, the county decided that it would be integrated into the curriculum.